Welcome to the MongoDB Podcast Live. I'm your host today, Jesse Hall, and we have an amazing topic lined up for you today. We're going to talk about AI assistance and in an AI assistant in VS Code. So who here loves VS Code? Give me some comments in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. And we're going to be building a Go app using this AI assistant. Really cool. But before we get started, some quick housekeeping. This is going to be recorded, so if you can't stick around throughout the entire event, don't worry. You can come back and rewatch it. It will be on YouTube. So go ahead and go to YouTube and subscribe if you're not already on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content as well. We have content coming out almost daily, so be sure you don't miss those. Without further ado, let's bring on our special guest today. We have Otto Kukuk from Sourcegraph. Otto is a familiar face on the show. You might, if you've been watching for a while, you might recognize him. He is a former MongoDB employee and my former boss. So welcome.
Hey Jesse, hey everybody. It's so great to be on the other side, kind of partnering with MongoDB to do this talk, and it's so great to see you and catch up with you again. And so excited for the show today. We have lots of good stuff planned. And yeah, I was looking at the comments in the chat. Lots of VS Code love. Lots of I think I saw somebody mention GitHub Copilot. So we won't be using GitHub Copilot, but we'll be using a tool very similar. I think better, but I might be a little biased. And we can definitely talk a lot about all the different cool AI code things that are happening in the world today. I know, Jesse, you've done a little bit of content around AI, so I think it's going to be a fun show today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, AI is taking over everything, and it's very helpful. And so this is going to be my first look at this tool actually live. And so we're going to kind of see what it does and how it can help us in our day-to-day engineering lives. So tell us, before we get started, a little bit about Sourcegraph and the tool that we're going to be talking about or seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sourcegraph is a company that's been around for about 10 years, and we really got our start way back in 2013, 2014. And the company's primary focus at the time was code search, helping large enterprises that had hundreds or thousands of different repos and different code hosts, bring it all together in one unified interface so that they could search code, they could make batch changes to their vast code bases. So if you had a vulnerability like Log4j, for example, and you had to update, 1,000 repos at once, with Sourcegraph, you could write one script. It would create PRs for all of your repos, and it would automatically create the PRs. You would accept them. So that's where we got our start. We kind of built this code graph, making it easy for developers to find code, build insights around their code bases, see how stuff is changing over time. And like most companies over the last year, with the release of GPT-3 and then GPT-4, we saw a really great opportunity to leverage everything we've learned about how code is stored, how code is searched, to build a code AI assistant that we're calling Cody, to really help you write code faster, be more productive as a developer.
Nice.
And with Cody, the way that we're kind of differentiating ourselves from Copilot or Cursor or hundreds of other code AI tools is that we built Cody based on our decade of knowledge of code search. So when we do queries, when we send queries to the LLM to get you completions or get your questions answered, we do an underlying search before sending it to the LLM. To find relevant code snippets in your code base, so that your auto-completion or your chat is based on your particular code and not just the general knowledge of all the code ever on GitHub or all the code that the LLM was trained on. So we think that we released this report earlier this month that says that Cody's code acceptance rate, which is kind of the industry standard metric that companies are looking at, is as high as 30% these days. So for every 3 completions that you get, you're going to accept one of them. So
Nice.
We're really excited. We're still in beta. We're hoping to be out in GA in a couple months. But Cody right now is free to try, cody.dev, and we'll get into a lot more of that as we build this app.
Amazing. Yeah, let's take a look at it. Do you want me to just go ahead and bring your screen up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So it sounds like it's like a much more like refined, and I mean we see that with other AI assistants too. Like you'll get several different options, and you kind of loop through, and choose from them. And if it's in the top 3, then it's doing good in my opinion.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, this is kind of the Cody landing page. We're building the only AI coding assistant that knows your entire code base. We kind of have an example where Cody will do both, single line completions as well as multi-line completions. So here we're seeing a bubble sort algorithm be implemented. And then, some of the features that Cody is known for, like we have chat built into the experience in VS Code. So,
Nice.
we've noticed that a lot of developers, when GPT-4 first came out, would, open up their code base, copy and paste their file into ChatGPT and be like, hey, how do I do this? Or I have a bug. So we said, why not, bring context-aware chat into the IDE? So we have that. We have custom and pre-built commands, which is a feature that people are really, really excited about. So we have about 6 or 7 built-in commands to explain code for you, generate unit tests, generate documentation and things like that. But you can also, like if you find yourself writing a prompt over and over again, you can very easily turn it into a command so that you could just hit, the command button and say like, convert this file from HTML to Markdown or, whatever your use case may be.
Nice.
And yeah, Cody knows your entire code base. To show a quick example of how Cody works, and so we have multiple different ways of interacting with Cody. You can download it in VS Code, or you can even access it on the web directly on the sourcegraph.com website. And this is also free for now. You just sign up for a free Sourcegraph account, and let's say you wanted to go into the MongoDB repo. So we'll say github.com, MongoDB, Mongo. And we can do a search, for example, let's say aggregation. So this is going to find us all of the files within the MongoDB library that have anything and everything to do with aggregations. So let's just open one of them here, cluster aggregation planner. That seems like a pretty intense file that hopefully does a lot. And like one of the ways that I've seen people use MongoDB or use Cody is for onboarding purposes. So you open up a new code base, you open up a file, and you're like, where the heck do I get started? So with Cody on the web, you can, if it's closed, you just hit Ask Cody, and it's going to bring in this local file into context. So now we can ask it questions like, I think here I have, I was messing around with Next.js, so I had brought that in as a dependency, but we'll remove that. And we can ask Cody, what does this file do? And Cody is going to think for a couple seconds. It's going to read this file as well as 8 other files. So that was that underlying search that we did to find where are all these other symbols coming from. And then it generated a cluster aggregation planner header file, defines classes and functions related to planning and executing aggregations on a sharded cluster in MongoDB. And then it gives you some more key insights, what each individual function in the file does, which I find very helpful to have it kind of in plain English. I mean, I can read the function name and I can kind of try to connect the dots myself, but having this as a starting point to give me like explain it like I'm 5 explanation is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, going into like a brand new code base you've never seen before, and then just getting this summary without having to go from this file, and then you find, oh, it's importing this other file, and let's go look at that and figure out what that's doing. It does all that for you, and then you kind of wrap your head around it and then go explore more after that. That's pretty cool. Before we keep going, for everyone in the audience, there are links in the video description to Cody and to an article that we're going to kind of go off of, base this stream off of, where we're going to build this Go app a little bit later on. So those links are in the description as well. Oh, and there's a question here. Let me bring this up. Is this just for VS Code?
Great question. So it is available for VS Code as well as any of the IntelliJ, any of the JetBrains IDEs. So if you have IntelliJ or PyCharm or basically all the IntelliJ, or sorry, all the JetBrains IDEs except for Android Studio. And then we also just added support for NeoVim as well. So if you don't want to have an IDE and just kind of go at it like a pro, we have NeoVim support, and we're working on Emacs as well. So that's hopefully coming soon.
Well, it sounds like support for just about everybody. Awesome.
Yep, and we're definitely looking at other options in the near future.
Nice, awesome.
Cool. So yeah, that's Cody for web. Like the other way that I really like using this Cody web interface is for things like almost like a better documentation. So that's why I had that Next.js repo brought up earlier. So if I were to do it again here, let's do github.com Vercel Next.js.
Or are you going to Next.js Conf next week or this week?
I was thinking about it, but I don't think I'll be able to make it. I have a lot of other stuff that needs to be done. So unfortunately, I'll have to miss it.
It's too bad. I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, I'll see if I could still try to swing it, but it's looking unlikely.
Okay.
But one of the things I really like about Cody Chat on the web is bringing in specific code repositories, and some of these, like the more popular ones, we will create embeddings for on a daily basis. So you're getting the latest up-to-date documentation, the latest up-to-date changes. So if you were to go and ask, ChatGPT right now, how would I do something with the new app router? It probably wouldn't be able to give you a very good response because its training data stops at, sometime, it used to be 2021. I think they increased it to 2022 now. But with Cody having up-to-date embeddings for, as recent as yesterday, we can ask it questions like, what is the difference between the app router and pages router? And it's going to be able to read the exact files in the Next.js repository as of yesterday, and explain to us the differences between the directory structures for for the app router and the pages router, when it was introduced, how it works, and then you can even ask it like, give me an example of a app router endpoint.
Nice.
Let's see.
Well, yeah, while it's doing that, there's another question here. While sending these related symbols to the LLM, this will have limitations in terms of how big of context size. So it's talking like if your code base is enormous, like how much of the code base? You said it goes to like 8 files, related files, or like how, or just a subset?
So it definitely is a subset. So we don't send your entire code base, with each prompt. What we will do is, for example, in this example, I said, give me an example of an app router endpoint. So it read these 14 files. It looks like some of the docs. It went into the examples repo and found a couple of the others to generate this response. So yeah, depending on the underlying LLM that you're using, the context window varies. Like if we used to use CRUD instant for a while, but we found that, and we still use CRUD for some of the chat experiences. But one of the things we found in building Cody is that latency is very, very important for folks, and so they wanted, if you're not getting an auto completion in a second or like a second and a half, then people are like, well, if you're waiting for it, it's not a great experience. So we've been experimenting with StarCoder lately, which has different context windows. And so we deployed that in our October 4th release, and we saw latencies drop by about 50%. And StarCoder is an LLM that's built specifically for code completions. So latency improved, and completion acceptance rate also improved significantly. So yeah, depending on the underlying LLM that you're using, you are limited to a particular context size, and we take that into account before sending a request.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Claude is 100,000 tokens, but I haven't heard of StarCoder. I'm gonna have to look into that one. Do you know what the token limit is for StarCoder?
I believe it's 16,000.
Okay, that's not bad.
It might be a little less, but I know that they have various versions of like the different parameter sizes for StarCoder, but I believe it's around 16.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I don't see any other pressing questions. Yeah, if we want to continue on. What did it tell us?
Sweet. So here it told us how to create a route, app router endpoint in Next.js, async function, get the params, and then send a new response, which looks right to me.
It does look right.
Cool. Well, and then I do see one other question about adding Cody with PyCharm.
Oh, yes.
So to do that, you basically go to cody.dev, which will take you to this about.sourcegraph link or /Cody. And then you just sign up with your account, either GitHub, GitLab, or Google. So let's say I log in with GitHub here. I'll be taken to the Get Started with Cody page. And here you just pick the extension you want it for. So for VS Code or IntelliJ, it's just going to take you to the plugin page where you'll download it, install it in the IDE, and you'll be good to go. Additionally, we also have a Cody desktop app. So if you wanted to create embeddings for your particular local repo, so that we could, do better searches, give you maybe a little bit more context. And we're still kind of testing this embeddings functionality and seeing like, does it really improve? Does it improve the code completion? Does it improve the answers? And we see a mix of results. Some people say it's great. Some people say, yeah, maybe it's a little better. Some people say like, oh, it's actually, worse than it was before. But with the Cody desktop app, you can basically have that same experience with the addition of being able to add a local repository, get the embeddings for it, so it'll try to give you better auto completions and kind of better context.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Really, what we found is that context is key. Context is everything. And at Sourcegraph, we're trying to figure out always new ways of getting you the right context, the most relevant context to give you the best answer and the best response.
Yes, that's what I've been finding out, just doing my research into vectors, vector embeddings. We have the vector search at MongoDB, and it's like getting the right context. And if you just leave it up to the LLM, it's just going to come up with some random stuff. Sometimes it hallucinates, but giving it as much context as possible definitely helps you get better results.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, but we had so many findings on, and like with the LLMs, they're so interesting. It's like, one of the early, our CTO was talking about this a couple months back, and he was saying that initially when we were building Cody and we were using Cloud Instant, if you, at the end of the prompt, if you had a white space between like the completion and if there was one single white space, it would hallucinate like 80% of the time. Whereas if you got rid of that white space, the prompts would like work much better. The responses would be way more accurate. So like it's so much trial and error and so much tweaking and trying and figuring things out.
Wow. Wow, white space. That's wow. That's like
a white space.
Where's the semicolon missing? And it's crazy. Here we got Shane likes our title. So hi Shane.
Hey Shane.
Thanks for joining. Okay.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, what's next? I think everybody's probably itching to like see it in action. Like
yeah, let's do it. So I'll open up VS Code, and so we have an empty project here. I've created a directory called mflix, and just created a Go module so that it's basically like a package.json if you're coming from the Node world. I added some of the dependencies for our application, and really the only dependencies I added were the Gin framework and the MongoDB package, and then this downloaded all the other stuff that these libraries rely on. We'll be using Go 1.20. So that is our module. And then in our main file where we're going to write all of our code or all of our implementation is empty right now. So we're just going to do this live. We'll rely on Cody to give us the majority of the code, and hopefully it goes well.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, there's one person asking for the links. Again, the links are in the video description. There's a link to an article that's going to go over all of this code as well. So again, it's in the video description. Yep.
I do have it pulled up here. So it's, and if you go to the MongoDB Developer Center, MongoDB Developer, and search for Gin, you'll see the how to build a Go web app with Gin, MongoDB, and the help of AI. So check out the link, and we might do things a little bit differently on the live stream, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what Cody has us build.
Definitely. Cool. So any Go program starts with the main package main. So that tells us like this is our entry point into the application, and it has a main function. So function main, and by default, Cody here is suggesting that I just print a hello world, so I can accept that. Once I hit save, the format method is added for me, or I can do it myself. And then if we run this code, go run main.go, just to make sure everything works so far, we get that hello world. So that's like the most basic Go application that we can build, but that's not a very useful app. So let's
how did Cody know that we wanted to start with the basics? And
then Cody is very smart. So what we can do here is we can open up the Cody VS Code extension, and so I have it by default. Like Cody is installed here on the side panel, and I always find it annoying switching between the Explorer and Cody and going back and forth. So the first thing whenever I install Cody is take it, just drag it to the side panel so that I have this like my Explorer, my working window, and then my my Cody window. So I will, I'm already logged into Cody, so I'm good to go. I can start creating, asking questions, getting the auto completions as you saw, and things like that. So the first thing I'll do is I'll ask Cody to give us a boilerplate Gin application. Cool. So I'll say, can you generate a boilerplate Go Gin application?
I notice a lot of people when dealing with LLMs is they are polite and they ask questions. Can you please do this for me? Instead of generate this for me. Like if you're nicer, it's going to give better results. I don't know.
And, you know, I saw an article on this where if you are nice to the LLM, it does give you better responses. Or another thing that Byung, our CTO, was telling us that when we were first building Cody, if you, like in the preamble at the top of the prompt, if you said things like, you are a 200 IQ hacker and like you're a super smart genius, it would give you better, more like verbose code examples that like even we didn't know what it was trying to do.
Wow.
So definitely like the tone you take with the LLM does make a big difference.
Nice. That's kind of scary, actually.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. What did it do for us?
So it gave us this boilerplate code, basically updating our main function to bring in the gin default settings and send us a message and create one route that says kind of the main index route, giving us a message of hello world, and then it started up the application. So what I can do here is I can delete my existing code. And with Cody, we have we can either copy the code, add it in a new file, or just insert it wherever the cursor is. So I have the cursor here on line 1. I'll hit insert a cursor, and it just copy and pastes that code into the editor. I'll hit save, and let's just close Cody out for a second. And let's just run this to make sure that it still works. So go run main go. By default, Cody runs on, or Gin runs on port 8080. So if we go into our browser, localhost 8080, we get the hello world message, and we are kind of off to the races.
Nice. So far, so good.
So far, so good. So going back into it, so right now we have one. We have our main function, we have our single route, we've imported Gin. So the next thing I want to do is connect to MongoDB, since we'll be using MongoDB to kind of build this movie application. I think it makes sense that we have MongoDB established. So I can do this a couple different ways. So I can create a function, say connect to MongoDB, give it that function signature, and what Cody will do is try to give me the code to connect to MongoDB, and this code would actually work, but I want to handle it a little bit differently. And the reason for that is I kind of want the MongoDB client, the connection, to kind of be long-lived so that I can share it across all of my endpoints. So what I'll do first is I'll create kind of a global variable called var Mongo client, and that's just going to be an instance of the Mongo client. And again, here Cody gave me the auto completion for it, and then I have a Go extension that automatically imports files. So that's not a Cody thing; that's a VS Code thing. So what I can actually do here is, so I have my Mongo client established. I'll also need my connection string, and we can also set that as like ideally we would put it in an environment variable, but just for brevity, let's say we'll set it as a string. And to get our MongoDB connection string from MongoDB Atlas, we'll go back into our browser. I've already enabled network access. I have a database set up in Atlas, and I have just a free, MongoDB Atlas has a free tier. So I've just set up a free tier, added in the sample database. And I'm going to connect with a driver, which is going to be the Go driver. And I have my connection string here.
Nice.
So we'll just, actually, there's a
How do you
nice
know all this
copy
stuff?
link. Oh, well, I've read many of your articles, Jesse.
Okay. I appreciate it.
And I wrote some of them myself.
Yes.
So here's our connection string, MongoDB, and then my password here, just because I gave this talk at QCon, I believe it's QCon 2023 as well.
Cool.
But I'm comfortable sharing the password here because I do have network access, limited to just my IP address, so that if you if you try this connection string, you're not going to be able to connect.
Right. Unless you know where Otto lives and you connect to his Wi-Fi.
Unless you knew that. So we have our connection string. We have this global Mongo client, and we have our connect to MongoDB function that doesn't have an implementation. So what I can do now is, Cody also has this concept of, well, this is a VS Code concept, but we added it with Cody as well, of code lenses. So basically helpful links in your IDE. So above every signature, function signature, we allow you to basically shortcut, highlight that code, and run one of the kind of pre-built commands that we have.
Nice.
So one thing we can do here is, ask a question, or what I want to do is edit this code base. So I'll say edit, and then it's basically going to ask me, what I want this code base to do. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say connect to MongoDB and save the connection to the Mongo client variable. I don't know if this particular prompt is really good. So there's a little prompt engineering there, but I'm just gonna one-shot this and see what it does.
Okay, cool.
So I'll hit enter, and now Cody is working. It's reading my code base, and it's going to generate a diff for me in a couple of seconds based on that prompt that I set.
Awesome. So Dexter is wondering how you're smelling your code.
Well,
I think that was one of the options in the drop down there.
Yeah, great question. So code smells basically, it's kind of a funny name, but code smells basically allow you to look at the code base and find any potential issues with the code, like poorly named variables or dead code, or other potential issues that you might run, that might not be obvious from just looking at the code. Code smells will give you kind of a summary of improvements you can make, and we can actually, once we have more of this app, we can run a code smell on it and see what it gives us.
Nice.
So with Cody here, try to give us this completion. So we can either apply the edits blindly, or we can see the diff of what it's doing. So we have our connection, and Cody was smart enough, without me saying to use the URI from the above, it brought in the URI, it connected and to the client, and then set it to that global Mongo client variable. So this looks good.
Cool.
We will apply these edits, and now our code is added. Once we hit save, all the red squiggly lines will go away because we brought in the options, the log, the context libraries. So we are connected to MongoDB here. I think the one other thing we might want to do is return an error here. Which is something I didn't initially have in my signature, so Cody didn't do it for me, but we might want to return an error so that, actually we should return it here. And actually, why don't we do this? So if error is not nil, or if error is nil.
Which way you want to, it's always like, do I want to do it not equal or equal? If I do it, yes. So
we'll set the Mongo client, otherwise we'll return blank.
Nice.
And then otherwise here, we'll return the error. Cool. So now, we changed our code. We didn't have to do this, but I just kind of wanted to properly write some code. And then so now we have our connection to MongoDB. The next thing we can do is let's create some endpoints to get some movie information, get a single movie, get work with our movie collection. So we can do this a couple of different ways. We could do it in here by asking Cody to generate the route for us, or we can use the chat experience. So let's use the chat experience here. I'll ask Cody, create 3 endpoints. One to get all movies, one to get a single movie, and one to add a movie to the database.
Okay, cool. And so for the audience, what we're using is the sample database that you can load onto your collection in MongoDB. We have a bunch of different sample databases, and one of them is a movies, like a Netflix type, it's called Inflix database. Yeah, awesome.
Yep. And while that's generating, we can actually take a look at that. Collection. So listings and reviews, we want the sample Inflix, movies. And here we see a list. I think there's 21,000 movies in the collection, and it has a whole bunch of information from the plot to the movie title, poster, the cast, and the awards the movie won, and a bunch more information that we can definitely play with.
Awesome.
So here, Cody added 3 endpoints: one to get the movie, one to get a movie by an ID, and then one to post or create a movie. And then what Cody didn't do is give us the implementation for that. It just gave us kind of the endpoints, but that's okay. Yeah. I think we can definitely play around with that. So I'll insert this into, and actually Cody, I see what I did. Okay, so I asked it to give me the endpoints, which it did, and it kind of built these anonymous inline functions. So we could, if we wanted to, add those here by inserting them, and then so that would work. But what I actually want is functions. So let's reword our query and say create 3 functions.
Back to prompt engineering. It's all about prompt engineering.
The endpoints to get a movie, get a list of movies, and add a movie.
Nice. It did what you asked.
It did, exactly. So it's sometimes being a little verbose or being kind of asking for exactly what you want will
exactly. Nice. So that looks much better.
So this looks much better. So it actually gave me a way to hook up the movies here, so we can insert those. And now below here, we can add our functions as well.
Nice.
I'll hit save, and let's just close out Cody just so we have a little bit more space to work with. So now Cody added 3 endpoints for us: one to get a movie by an ID, one to get a list of all of the movies, and then one to
post
and add a movie to our collection.
Nice. Luce has a question here. Does it have enough context so that you could just ask follow-up questions instead of like asking the whole question over again?
It does. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So I could have in that initial prompt, I could have just said, I need these as a function, and it would read the previous previous prompt. And then if I wanted a brand new, so one chat experience is going to have all the context from all the questions that you ask it. But if you start a new chat, now you basically get a clean slate, just like with ChatGPT. Like if you're asking follow-up questions in the same chat window, it will use that context from the previous responses. Otherwise, if you start up a new chat, you basically kind of get a clean slate.
Nice.
And then with Cody, if you click here, you can kind of see your previous questions as well and work with those.
Nice. Okay. Really cool.
Awesome. So this is all working really well. We have our 3 endpoints, and Cody also added this movie struct. So we haven't defined this struct anywhere, but it figures out that we are working with movies. So we're probably going to have a movie, have a struct that can deconstruct the movies. So we can add that functionality in a little bit. But what we need to do is have an init function that connects to our MongoDB database so that we can actually add some functionality to make these calls.
Okay.
So we could do that either in our main function, because this is the default function that runs when we start up our server. But Go also has an interesting init function. So we can say func init, and now this init function is going to run before our main function is run. So it can give us the database. It can have us connect to the database, and we can actually.
So is that Cody suggesting that right there?
This is a Cody suggestion, and it gave us 3 different suggestions that we can use.
Okay.
So if we do this first one, it's going to basically, so I looked at that URI, stored it in the Mongo client, and if it fails, it's going to panic. Otherwise, it's going to work as it should. So this looks fine to me. We can run with this, and now we'll have our Mongo client as well. So we can go into this get movies collection now, edit it, and say add the MongoDB query to get all movies from the mflix database.
Carol is loving Cody so far.
Oh, well, thank you. Let's see if Cody will continue to impress.
Yes, so far so good.
And I see Anaya in the chat. Hi, Anaya. Yes. Here, instead of showing the diff, let's just go crazy and apply the edits as is. So we're using our MongoDB client. We're going into the mflix database. And actually, that was my mistake. Again, I told it to go into the mflix database. It should be sample mflix, because that is the database name. We're going into the movies collection and running a find to get back all of the movies in it. And I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, it is called movies.
Yeah, the plural is always is it plural or not?
Right. And then so we still have this movie struct. So we could do something like how did I do it in the past? We could do like an empty struct that whatever we throw into it, Go will accept. But let's actually create a movie struct that we can use in our code to be a little bit better programmers. So let's say create a new struct called movie that contains the title, plot, and poster string for a movie.
Nice. If you have the red squigglies, is it possible for Cody to interpret the issue and like go from there?
Yes.
Is there like I'm sure there's multiple ways to go about this, but yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So we could do exactly that. So we could highlight this piece of code and say fix this, and Cody will either change this movie to be kind of a generic data structure, or we could create this struct. And in this case, I just did that. We'll throw it up at the top.
Okay.
And that should make this quickly go away.
I'm not so familiar with Go. Is it like a TypeScript interface? Basically.
Exactly.
Define. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yep. So let's run this and see if it works, or if the red squiggly lines from the other functions are going to give us trouble.
Okay.
So I'll go run main Go again. And ID declared and not used. Movie.id is undefined. Oh, so we need an ID just because we are. Okay, so well, let's do this just for brevity. I have the completed code here. So we'll do this bson m. This is kind of the generic. Instead of using a movie, this is going to convert all the data that gets back.
Gotcha.
So we can also get rid of this movie struct so that it doesn't confuse Cody. And then here, the other really interesting thing about Cody or about Go is that you can't have undeclared. You can't declare a variable and not use it. So if you try to do that, like here, we're getting this ID, but we're not calling it anywhere or using it anywhere, it's going to crap out. So let's actually, just for now, remove these implementations, and we'll go back and add them in.
Okay.
And rerun our application, go run me go. And
so is that going to return all 23,000 movies?
It will. If it runs, it will return all of the movies.
Okay.
So
let's see. Oh, was it doing something? No.
Let's go to movies. So no. And so server selection timeout.
This is the fun part of live coding. There's always issues, and the fun part is actually debugging the issues because we all get to sit here and learn and figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. So it looks like the issue is on our connection string.
Did we test it? We never tested it, did we?
So server selection timeout, current topology, replica set. Let me get my network access, database access.
Oh, it could be your password.
Let's change the password. And we'll do, choose my own, let's say MongoDB stream. So that's going to take a second, and I just want to make sure that we have the right connection string. Is there?
I think so. Yeah.
MongoDB stream. So this should work. And if not,
the only other thing that was added in there was the init. Is that init functional? Correct. I'm not as familiar with Go. I'm just trying to think of the logical order of things.
Yeah. Well, one thing we could do is, yeah, it's still giving me an error. So what I can do is use the other implementation that I had of the function from the tutorial, which adds in the server API. I think that might be what's causing it. So let's do it this way. And we'll just change the init function and see if that fixes it. Or if the issue is on my end. So internal error. Let me just, because I had some internet.
Did your IP address change?
That's what I'm thinking. So let's allow access from anywhere. Folks in the chat, don't hack me. And let's see if that works. So can now connect to, so yeah, our issue is definitely with MongoDB.
Yeah, the connection. Yeah, that's going to take.
So this is still pending.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there it goes.
Active database.
Everything else should be good.
So how about now? Go, go, go. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like the issue was on my IP address must have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
So now if we go to localhost movies, it probably will take a second to load 21,800 movies, but I can
It shouldn't take
see
too
it
long.
loading.
Yeah.
There
we
it is.
Go. All right.
So we got a very tiny scroll bar, but at least it works.
Yeah, do some UX design in your applications. Don't load 23,000 movies at once for your users. They're not going to appreciate that.
Or you can ask Cody. Here we can say limited to first 50 movies.
There you go.
So that should just update the query for the database. It's gonna read the code, get the context.
Oh, I like how it's like it shows you like what it's doing. It's reading, and I didn't even see that. That's really cool.
So it added a limit of 50, but then it gave us a bunch of red squiggly lines. So
is it? Oh, okay.
Multiple value. This might be a. Okay, let's remove this one for now.
Yeah.
Let's go into the single single get movie endpoint.
Okay.
Implement this. And MongoDB query to get a movie based on an ID, based on an ID provided in the path.
There you go.
Let's be a little bit more explicit today.
Yes. Don't let it answer its own questions.
Exactly.
Sometimes you can do that. I don't know if you can do that with Cody, but with ChatGPT, a lot of times I'll say, I'll give my prompt, and then I'll say, if you have any other questions, ask me before. And it comes back and it asks a few questions. I'll give it some more answers, and then it gives me a much better response.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like you can also ask it like, how did you come up to this conclusion? Like, what is your reasoning behind it? And it kind of helps you do some prompt engineering.
Nice.
So we added this get single movie endpoint, and this one is going to work, but it's also not going to work, and I'll show you why. And if you read the article, you'll know. But if we run the application, it's going to connect, it's going to work just fine. And the idea here is we have a function called getMovie that allows you that is called when you go to movies / whatever ID you pass it. And the idea is that it's going to go into the sample Netflix collection, into the movies, and find one based on that the ID that we give it. So if we go into our browser, take this movie, whichever one it is, I'm not sure because this is a mess.
Yep.
We go to movies / and give it that pass. So that's the ID. We would expect to get back a movie, but we don't. And the reason for that is in our collection, in our database for the sample movies, the underscore ID is an object ID. It's not a string. So when we send a string in our prompt here, we're sending a string. MongoDB is like, hey, I have an object ID. You're sending me a string. That's not going to work for me. So it doesn't match. But
so we got to do some BSON stuff.
So we got to do some BSON stuff, and we can actually ask Cody, and we'll do the edit again and say the ID should be an object ID. So this is a kind of fun way to write code. Like we could go and look at the docs and figure out like, how do I convert an ID, a string to a BSON, or we can ask Cody and get the same result. Let's see if it'll be smart enough to do it. It did it for me in the article the first time.
Again, for the audience, we're referencing an article that's linked in the video description. All right, let's see what it does.
Cody is working very hard.
Nice. I mean, I like not having to go to the documentation myself and trying to figure out things. You just ask a question and then it just finds it for you.
Exactly. And especially if you're working with, just because I've worked a little bit with Jin, not too in depth, but being able to see how to create endpoints, how to add functionality, how to do things really helps you write code faster, and you can like see an example really quickly of what you're trying to do, and you might need to make a couple tweaks to it. But generally it's almost like your second programming brain, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect it to do like 100%. Like it's gonna do the majority of it, and then you still have to do some develop. You're the developer, so you have to develop. You still have to do some of that.
Yeah, Cody is not a developer replacement. It is a developer productivity tool. It's to make you a better coder.
Yeah.
So this one looked like it's working for a while. So let me restart it. My internet has been very, very finicky.
There was a question earlier about rate limiting. Are there any rate limits for Cody?
Yes, to an object ID. So Cody right now, it's in beta. It's free to use for everybody. You just go to cody.dev, you can download it, install it. And our current rate limits, I believe, are 50 chats and 300 auto completions per day. So it resets every day. And if you are finding a use case where Cody, you're evaluating and you're getting a lot of value out of it, if you join our Discord channel, our community channel, talk to us. We might be able to bump those limits up a little bit. But we found 50 chats and 300 completions per day. Unless you're writing code all day, every day for 8 hours, you probably won't hit those limits.
That's pretty generous. Yeah, it is. All right.
And so you don't have to add your you don't have to add your own OpenAI keys or Anthropic keys. Like, we cover all of it. So Cody here did bring in this primitive library, created an object ID from hex. But the issue here is that, again, my poor prompt engineering, it did what I told it to do, but it just wasn't. So this primitive object ID from hex returns two values. It returns the object ID as well as an error if it couldn't do it. So what we need to do is take this out and say object ID error primitive, and then if we get the object ID, we'll send that instead. Object ID.
Nice.
And then we need to handle the error not equal nil. Let's see, abort with status. So that was a Cody thing. And then did it change? And then error here. Boom. Because we enabled the error. We defined the error variable here, and we can't redeclare it. So that was the issue there. We'll restart, and I know we're coming up on time, so I think this is the last endpoint we'll be able to test. But let's see. So we have the get movie. We have the ID. We're converting that ID into an object ID, storing it in an object ID variable, and passing that in our query. So if we go back now, we have that particular object ID. We'll hit enter, and ta-da! We get our single individual movie. And it looks like Justin, he's on my team. He saying that the completions. So we have 50 for chat and 1,000 for completions as the default rate limits.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Thank you for that assist, Justin.
Yeah, we need to enable the confetti thing here on StreamYard. It worked. Because there's always something. There's always an issue, or there's always something. But we always try to get it to work on stream.
Ta-da!
What? Nice, nice. What extension is that? Confetti
So
extension?
this is Raycast. Has a
Oh,
bunch of stuff you can do, and one of them is confetti. So
nice. Nice. Okay. I'm gonna have to use that next time. Amazing.
um,
Okay.
yeah, so
Um,
I know we're up on time, so we did a lot of a lot of debugging, a lot of fun. Thank you, Jesse,
yeah.
for being an amazing host, asking great questions, and yeah, if you want to give Cody a try, Cody.dev is the
Mhm.
domain, and it works with all programming languages. You know, whether you're doing Go, JavaScript, TypeScript, it works really well with MongoDB. I was hoping we could add some more MongoDB queries, some aggregations, but unfortunately we didn't get a chance to do those. But
Yeah.
maybe we could do a follow up stream. But
I
yeah,
think
other than that,
exactly. No, I think this was a great demo of Cody. There's a bunch of love in the chat. I see a lot of people are trying it out and they're liking it. Again, there's a link in the description to the article if you want to finish out that application and see all of the other bits that we didn't get to today. The link is in the description. But I think, yeah, this is definitely was a great demo of Cody, and I will be using it later on. Whoops. And I will be using it later on today for sure. Awesome. Any last words before we go?
no, thank you. This was a
Mhm.
pleasure. I know I don't work in MongoDB anymore, but I am a
Yeah.
a big fan. I use it for every chance I get, and this AI landscape is changing rapidly.
Yes.
But I know MongoDB has some amazing vector search capabilities. I know you guys are doing some fun stuff with AI, so
Yeah.
it is an exciting future.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're always welcome. So we'll definitely plan another stream. We've got tons of content, like I mentioned before. We have almost one piece of content coming out every day at MongoDB. So be sure to go to the YouTube channel, the MongoDB YouTube channel, and subscribe. If you're watching this video, give it a like, reshare it, and we'll see everyone next time. Appreciate it, and we'll
Awesome.
see you.
Thanks all.
Bye.